Yes, indeed. We did talk about the NATO summit and Ukraine, and we'll talk about it in much greater detail in the coming days in Brussels during the NATO foreign ministers meeting. As the Allies stated in Vilnius, Ukraine will be member of NATO. For us, the issue is having a good and clear roadmap to reach this conclusion. And I believe that the NATO summit for the 75th anniversary will indeed be highly focused and quite concretely as to how we can establish this roadmap, or to use another image, the bridge, the necessary bridge to allow Ukraine to become a member of NATO. And with respect to Iranian missiles, which are being sent to Russia and are being used against the Ukrainian people, indeed, we did mention it. We are working together to try to interrupt, at least penalize, any support of this nature, be it from Iran, North Korea, or elsewhere, including China. And this is also something that will be mentioned probably with our NATO colleagues in the coming days.
Okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022? Think about that, and talk about progress, better late than never, but progress. And what that has done, because of course when, I had a bracket, it's not broken completely, but I won't talk about my bracket. But
yeah, we know your bracket's broken too.
How we love March Madness, and even just now allowing the women to have brackets, and what that does to encourage people to talk more about the women's teams, to watch them. Now they're being covered. And this is the reality.
Charles Woodson, how about that? What a season he had. Great, man. He became the first defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. And congratulations, Charles. That is something that no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, in which case...
Legend. Yeah. Hey.
The juice is gone. Sorry. Rest in peace, Juice.
Yep. In case you didn't know, he's gone to that big touchdown in the sky. Or
if he really did it, he's fine.
Or the locker room down below. Which one? We don't know. So that's we're gonna leave that one on.
There's another trial that happened.
Do you realize the reason why his gloves didn't fit is because he stopped taking his arthritis medication?
I think I heard.
And his hands swelled up.
Yeah, I think I heard.
At least that's what. Anyway, that's what they say. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to News from the Pew, where we talk about stuff around the interwebs, and sometimes we put a Catholic spin on it if we feel like it. I'm your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic, joined by the rock steady Stephen Cunningham of Census Fidelius, the godfather of Catholic media, on Catholic YouTube and alternative media. Sorry, folks, we've been away for a while. First time. It was Easter, so happy Easter. We haven't seen you since then. And then I had to go to Louisiana for the Crusader Congress and give a presentation there. And so it's just...
What he's trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, is he is cool and is all over the world. I haven't left the confines of this room in 2 weeks.
I wish I haven't left the confines of my room. I'll tell you that much. Traveling is not as cool as everybody thinks it is. It's actually... kind of annoying. I mean, granted, everybody, if you're from the Crusader, I'm not talking about you guys. It was great to see you and hang out with you guys, because sometimes I'm like a hobbit. I just want my soft bed and fireplace and my my little garden and stuff like that. So I don't really I just want to go home. So I am, and we are back, and we are talking. We're going to try and cover as much stuff as possible. Granted, it was a lot of stuff has actually happened in the 2 weeks since we've been gone. Let's just get the first one out of the way.
I already told the kids I'll see them tomorrow because it's about a 9-hour show.
I hope not. But the Eclipse. Let's just get that out of the way. I'm sorry, the fatted calf or whatever it was in Israel didn't get slaughtered. You know, the 9 moons didn't happen. I know a bunch of people were just super happy to try and stoke your fear, but it's an eclipse. They called this in the 70s, folks. So, in the fact, pretty ridiculous in regards to the hype. Granted, yes, it is nice. You know, it's a cool thing, God's power, and really to show how everything is just perfectly created. I don't know how you can deny the existence of God when you have something so perfectly set up. But the absolute hysteria. People didn't go to work here in the state of Texas. I drove back on Sunday night from the conference at 10 p.m. Sunday night to get back here at 6 a.m. Texas time. Because people were afraid they were going to block the highways and all of this other nonsense. And it's like, yes, it was nice, but really just kind of calm down. You know? Yeah, I talked to people that are like, yeah, we stood in the parking lot for 30 minutes and watched it and we went back to work. Like, that's what you kind of should have done, not prophesied and did all this other stuff. And
I just played Bonnie Taylor as loud as I could. Turn around.
Right. And how many of you paid? How many of you really? I want to know this. Leave it in the comment section down below. How many of y'all paid for those glasses? How many of y'all paid for those solar glasses? Because y'all probably felt real stupid after you did. Because you could just look through your phone. Yeah, I mean, you could be like me. I was hardcore. I was like Trump. I actually looked at it. I did the Trump glance once, which is why I can't really see much. But outside of that, the people, you know. Some people did look at it and now they can't see. And
I was working out.
But
I was working out at David. People were running outside the gym to go look at it. I'm like, what the? It's I remember it was 2017 was the last one. I was driving Uber, and I picked this guy up at one of the bank HQs. I was thinking, all right, got my airport ride. You're going to Blue Moon. I was going to Blue Moon Brewery. I'm like, it's 11 in the morning, dude. Yeah. And I literally go, dude, you're having that bad of a day? He goes, no, going for the Eclipse party. Place was jam-packed. Yeah, I finally got a ride out to the airport. It's at least people were looking up for a change and started looking down at their dumb phones, getting to stretch their neck out. They probably need some ice in the back. But no, I was just joking around with people thinking, I wonder if the animal's going to pass out when the sun goes up, when the light goes away. Or there was an article about what do you do to protect your pets starting. And just
I saw that too. It was like,
just don't do anything. They're not stupid. Because they said something, they're smart enough not to look at the sun.
I mean, it was kind of funny when it was starting to happen. The deer around my house were kind of freaking out because they're like, "Is it nighttime? Like, what's going on?" Like, but outside of that, they didn't stand on their high legs and were like looking at the sun for a minute.
I'm listening to James Evan Pilato at the time. He's going through all these fun. It was a fun show. By the way, don't listen to it unless you got VidAngel to block out his cussing. He cusses a little too much for everyone, so that's why I'd never recommend him on any platform. I like getting you go to his page, you can grab the links. But anyways, he's talking about that article about the animals. And I'm hearing in the background because animals are smarter than humans. They don't look at the sun because it will stun them and they might die from being attacked by a predator. While at the same time, this millennial is at the front desk asking the lady behind the desk, is it okay if we look at the sun? And she's going, well, the eye doctor is over there. He says don't do it unless you got something good on, or, covering your eyes, or don't look directly at it. Going, what a coinky-dink. I'm hearing that these animals are smarter than this chick over here. This
lady with $15 sunglasses looking up at the sun, and the squirrel's like, I don't know what you're doing, bro.
There was a whole group come in afterwards going, and they're all kids. Go, guys, Mamma Mia, is it that big of a deal? But yeah, the prophecy stuff. I saw somebody tweet, in the rest of the world, the eclipse happens quite often. Only in North America is a prophecy. The best one was the meme about the eclipse came through Mexico illegally. It took over the workforce. That was cool. But yeah, man, that was next time I'll do that one meme with the blow up dolls and see if I can get them to for the Rapture.
Rapture, dude. That would have been like the Haley Bob Comet or whatever those guys were with the Nike shoes. Yeah, you would have had like mass Jim Jones events if you did that anywhere. Just one.
Well, it was just some weird things going around. I mean, the whole thing with that, obviously NASA was shooting off the sound things, but apparently they do that all the time.
Yeah, they just,
you had
hey, there he is, Jonathan Ayrton. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing well, brothers. Good
We're
to be
talking
with you.
about the eclipse.
What?
That's it. That was it. That's exactly what happened.
That was pretty much live, yeah, dramatic.
Yeah.
Without
In case you
red
missed
bull
the eclipse,
problems.
folks, John just demonstrated what happened. Real time. That was actually $15 million to do that. So
Too bad we can't find a Ricky Bobby interview. What happened? Well, it got dark and then it got light.
I couldn't see for like 3 minutes. And then it was light again. John, what was the reaction around you to the eclipse?
Well, my 7 children and my 4 nieces and nephews looked at it once and then said, okay, and then went and played some more. So that's pretty much what they had. Is I think they took the prudent route. They said, okay, yeah, that looks cool. Bye, going to play. No, I mean, in all seriousness, though, I did hear a lot of the normal apocalyptic prophesiers prophesying that something big was going to happen that day. And, I mean, if I were an evil genius and wanted to do something bad, or maybe a holy genius and wanted to do something good, maybe I would have chosen that day. But I'm not that sort of holy genius or evil genius. So, yeah, I guess everyone was wrong.
Like you were saying about all the people coming, they had Fox News on at the gym, and I think they were at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That place was jam packed. Did they sell tickets to go to this thing? I mean, it was. It was amazing. It was nuts. It was like a whole tailgate fest going on for this. I bet I bet they did sell tickets. Anybody from Indianapolis just comment in there and say how much the tickets go for, but. Never would have thought.
I mean, if people are buying the sunglasses, they'll pay for anything. Fact. The fact people are taking days out of school and all this other kind of stuff, it was just ridiculous. But
well, maybe anything to get your children out of the school system might be worth it. But
John's like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, especially if they got their days off. Hey, we're taking the eclipse hop. Like I said, the guy in Colorado, these guys were literally leaving work to go to the brewery. So apparently it's in corporate world, even that was, 7 years ago? Imagine now with all that pub that was going on, I guess everyone else just cranked up. Whenever the next one was of 2045 or something, the next one comes out, it's gonna be a doggone holy day. Everyone's gonna be off.
Yeah. I mean, because I was coming back from Louisiana, I was supposed to pick up my dog Monday, but I went to the cat. Nobody was there, and they're like, "We closed for the eclipse." I'm like, "It was 30 minutes.
Closed for the eclipse."
We couldn't find anybody to come into work. Really, you couldn't? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's real. In 20 more years, it's all gonna be robots anyway. So everyone's gonna be out looking, and your robot might. Well, what if the robot just goes down because of the light?
They're fat machines from Wall-E. They'll just take them out to the sun.
Can I say though, there was a brilliant business side to it. Like I saw some friends who were actually naturalists and do appreciate these things more than my kind of just brute brain does. And they were telling me how the time frame for the total part. I forget all the lingo, but kind of the total eclipse part. Basically, as close, the closer you got to the very middle of it, the shorter the time span that they said you'd really capture the total eclipse of it. And I just thought, as far as marketing goes, that's what marketing geniuses would say. Wow. Like they only had, I think it was 4 minutes at these kind of ground zero spots to catch it. Whereas here in Georgia, everybody was marking out. I mean, in Georgia, not far away from any of the close places, marking out 2.5, 3 hours, even 3 hours of eclipse time. But so that's a brilliant marketing ploy. So at least there's some business geniuses, I think, that jumped on board and did something probably lucrative with it.
Hey, anything to get business.
Was there any baseball games going on, day games that day that they ended up having to stop the game for pop fly to center? Oh, he's looking, popped in the head.
Nope, not happening. Just let it go. I'm not even looking up. Can't look up. You're gonna burn your eyes. So just let that go. There was one, and I should have found it. The only one that I thought was pretty interesting was the one in the plane. There's one video of a plane showing it, and you could see it above the clouds, and you could see the whole thing. I was like, all right, that one's actually like pretty neat. The rest of these, it's just like whatever. I don't really.
Now, cool thing you brought up about the clouds. Notice I heard a lot of people talk about hazy. It was very hazy that day. Well, a lot of geoatmospheric stuff was going on around that time. A lot of spraying was going down. These little chemicals that they do that they say that they don't do, but they do. And then they have an article the next day saying, oh, by the way, we've been doing it for years. By the way, you're nuts if you talk about it. And you had this bad storms. It was a huge storm that went from coast to coast. Just a little coincidental that all this stuff that they're spraying in the sky for the first time, it's a little hazy. It's not that clear. Gee, I wonder why. That doesn't. Not natural to be a haze for 16 states.
Well, I mean, there is the remark that the storm that passed Tuesday followed the exact same path of the eclipse on Monday, both of them passing over my house. So it was kind of not really great, but either way. So there you go, folks. There's your eclipse coverage from News from the PEW. I hope you all enjoyed that. Moving on. We'll talk a little politics stuff. We're going to talk about Trump in the next couple. First is that Speaker Johnson is living up to his last name, and he is just completely weak on all accounts. He's getting bullied by Hakeem Jeffries, who is the minority leader in the House. He's the Democratic House leader, whatever. And Johnson's just getting bullied from pillar to post because he was not fit for the position, and it shows. And everybody's just kind of tearing into him because he's just kind of giving Democrats whatever they want on any of these bills. And if you don't believe me, you can take a look.
6 months since Mike Johnson assumed the speakership after Kevin McCarthy's ouster. Now the question, how long can Johnson last?
Mike Johnson has completely betrayed our conference, and his leadership cannot be allowed to continue going forward.
Facing an escalating threat from a fellow Republican, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is warning she may call for a vote to remove him, in part over his deal to keep the government open.
We are a conference in chaos right now because our Republican Speaker of the House is passing major bills without the majority of the majority.
And now issuing this warning as Johnson plans for a new Ukraine aid package.
He's going to make my case for me, and he makes it even easier for what I'm trying to do.
Johnson is trying to navigate a sharply divided conference, all with little margin for error. And soon we'll see his razor-thin majority shrink again after another Republican resigns amid the House turmoil, leaving him with just one vote to spare. But as Ukraine critics warn Johnson not to move ahead, many in both parties say the House's decision to slow walk an aid package could lead to a Russian victory.
If we don't rearm them, then the coalition supporting them will fall apart, and it'll be on the hands of people who stand in the way of the supplemental, or a viable alternative if the House can produce it to us. Get us something, but inaction's unacceptable.
2 months ago, the Senate passed a $95 billion foreign aid package, with 22 Republicans voting for it, including Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell.
I hope that at some point here, the Speaker will put the Senate-passed supplemental on the floor.
Johnson is trying to narrow the Senate's plan and add new border security provisions, all while looking to turn Ukraine aid into a loan, an idea backed by Trump, but one generating skepticism.
His positions are ever shifting right on this, so it's a little bit hard to follow what it is day to day.
It comes as Johnson is grappling with another major dispute dividing his conference, renewing an expiring law that gives the FBI the power to conduct warrantless surveillance. Still, Johnson could hang on, given many are skeptical about Greene's effort.
The last time I pulled the trigger on a motion to vacate, I could make a true promise to the country that we would not end up with a Democrat Speaker of the House. And I fulfilled that promise, and I'm not certain that I could do it again.
I don't believe rewarding Speaker Johnson for doing his job is a smart policy, and there are lots of problems, I think, doing that. He is the most ideological right-wing speaker since the 1830s. Everything he stands for is antithetical to democratic values, and keeping him in office is being complicit when we do that. Secondly, This is extortion. Where do we stop? This time it's Ukraine. What is it next? And thirdly, there's viability. What kind of shelf life is Mike Johnson going to have in his own caucus when he's the speaker at the sufferance of Democratic votes? That's not going to be a long shelf life.
Well, Congressman Connolly, let me stick with you here. So if you don't save Speaker Johnson, who's going to be the next speaker?
Well, hopefully Hakeem Jeffries.
But
Republicans
No,
the Republicans are down to a one-vote majority. It's very fragile. But it's not our job to save a Republican speaker, especially one as far right as Mike Johnson. He's wrong from a Democratic point of view on every issue imaginable. Gun rights, women's reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights. He litigated.
This in any way help Trump with people who may.
See, no, different one.
I mean,
Trump the gun.
The thing with that is, it's like this McCarthy's literally not McCarthy. Johnson's literally giving them every single thing they want. He has not pushed back in any way, shape, or form against it. So the fact that they're like, oh yeah, he would be terrible for this and terrible for that. What are you talking about? The guy hasn't done nothing. Somebody asked female Kansas City Royals fan from Nebraska. I'm glad you were able to fit that all in. McCarthy,
she's a regular viewer.
She is. She's fantastic, and I'm very happy with that. Asked the question: is Johnson worse than McCarthy? I think he is, because McCarthy was an establishment Republican, but somebody that I trust as a political expert, Magdalene Rose, said at least McCarthy was groomed for a leadership position. So he picked and chose his battles, and he could fundraise. Now, this is all within the confines of being political animals, folks. I don't endorse any of this, but this is how they looked at him. He could get behind people and so forth. Johnson was never groomed for a leadership position. He was never the whip or any of these other things. So they kind of were just, it's kind of like plucking a starting pitcher in single A and then being like, guess what? You're our ace now. Go get it. And the dude's like, okay. And just getting lit up every time he goes out to the mound. And so it's the fact that he doesn't really know what he's doing. And Hakeem Jeffries was picked for leadership. He was part of the impeachment process. He was a part of all these things. So he knows how to do things behind the scenes. If you notice, with all this infighting the Republicans done, Jeffries hasn't said a word. He's just kind of sat back, gone on NBC when he's asked and so forth. He's playing the game perfectly while we're just ripping each other a new one at this point. So I don't think, I think McCarthy was not great, but then again, none of them are. So that, I think it was a mistake to try and do all that. That's my opinion. What do you guys, John, then Steve? Thoughts?
I wouldn't have added a word to what you said right there, Rick. That was perfect. It's like, where are our expectations? The only thing I could say is, it's a little embarrassing for this guy Johnson to come in after someone like McCarthy and not be praised. It's like the expectations were pretty low after that. Yep. So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to make a joke. Like, if you're looking for McCarthy, you didn't do good.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that always gets me, and I'm sure that when we get on the other side of eternity, it's going to all make sense. But the thing that I don't understand about all this is that anybody, I think, with even a quarter of a brain, you don't even need a half a brain for this, that looks at the current GOP situation, the way to become almost insanely popular is to say a lot of the things that Trump said in 2015, to do it without being too annoying to the female population, and basically just kind of say a lot of common sense things, because that's going to seem so incredibly radical right now, and you're going to get like probably a third to maybe half of the Democrats who are still sane to come screaming over to your side and cheer for you. So the only thing I mean, I'm sure there's, and Steve may have a good explanation about why this is, but I've thought about it kind of deep and hard at certain points. It'd be a way to probably to get the most votes percentage-wise, and certainly per capita as well, of all time, if you just said a bunch of common sense things and more or less reiterated a few of the things that Trump said in 2015. So why almost no one that could or would be allowed to be the majority leader, or sorry, the GOP leader at this point. Why no one says that? I don't know. It's either terrifying because there's some conspiracy that's greater than all of us than we can not really fathom, or it's well, I don't know, maybe some other explanation I haven't thought of, but that still just kind of gets to me is how could Johnson be so idiotic to not see what would make him the most popular politician of all time, right? I mean, he could run simply opposite to everything that Biden's doing and saying right now, and I think become the most popular politician of all time just by doing that, because Biden is so crazy, and the Democrats are hemorrhaging, true supporters right now. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that still strikes me as just odd. Like no conspiracy I can think of really explains why someone wouldn't go that route.
Yeah, I do like that he's hated by pretty much everyone right now in D.C. Brandon is pressure. I mean, they did a press conference. Passed the bill now. Nazi Pelosi, she's doing the same thing. She's on there going after Johnson. You got NTG going after him. I mean, all the Congress critters are after him. Like, to a point. If everybody I dislike is hating that guy, do we like this guy? I mean, keeping DC open, keeping the government open. I hate that line because, I mean, what does that mean? I don't think Jonathan's not going to work if DC's not working today. Well, I guess we're all taking a break. Hey, let's go look at the sun for 30 minutes. No one's doing that. It's
be better use of our time.
It's just whether you're going to cancel the all the land fields that they have that they shouldn't own. But yeah, I mean, notice like the first clip we had with Kamala not getting the field of 64 bracket thing. She was talking about women's, and it was still stupid of her. That was a local guy doing it. But I mean, when they had that government shutdown threat a couple of months ago, they only interviewed WIC guys, people that are on the government teat, and they were all worried. Anybody that's not on the government teat, which kind of like we get into another topic later. It's that whole idea of freedom. You can't yell freedom and then say, get off my Social Security. You can't yell freedom and go, lay off my Medicare. I mean, there's conservatives out there right now saying, I can't believe they're touching my stuff like that. They're giving how much money is going to Ukraine, and still no one's up. We're not, making January 6th a kindergarten show. We should be, if we understood how bad they were treating everybody and the screwy tactics they were using. Everyone says they'd be shooting by now in 1776. We're way past that. You talk about pitchforks, burn it down type deal style. They are literally doing everything they can. How can I say, to kill you? I mean, just the other day they dumped how much chemicals into the Missouri River. They're literally coming at it, they're just contraceptions and stuff like that the government is doing. The whole thing with East Palestine. Oh, it's come back. Everything's okay. Just like Ground Zero now. Oh, everything's come back. And you got the first responders dying. Literally, but we're so distracted. These like, oh, hey, Caitlin Clark. I mean, I watched 5 minutes of the game. Let's watch the game. 18 million people watched the women's Final Four this year. 16 million watched the guys. Okay, great. How many of those 16 million gives two what's about what's going on? Probably not a lot.
Well, outside of you, Steve, nobody.
Opening baseball was last week. You got the transfer protocol stories going on. You got NFL about the draft starting to go up. There's so many distractions to keep you from literally caring what's going on that these guys are literally doing to you. I mean, the opening thing with Blinken. Ukraine wants to get in NATO. Literally what they said, Russia said, you do that, we're going to war. They're poking that bear. If you turn on the media, they're going to say, oh, Russia, even though Ukraine has literally killed their own people, mass murder, a lot, terrorist attacks, things like that. No one cares. It would just turn on the TV. It should just say, push this button for it to tell me how to think. And that's it. Turn off your mind. There's a book, Turn Off Your Mind. And it's just how we're just idiots on we're so late. Like you have a video comes out maybe 30 minutes long. I need 5 seconds. I mean, give me the meme version. Jonathan's coming out with he's translating a book by Gus. Great. It's going to be cooler than anything. There's going to be 3 people that care about it. One, no one cares about the subject because we need sexy drama. What's the worst things happening? Let's give me the church thing. Who we got to hate in the church today? You know, what's the thing? Let's talk about the latest encyclical or whatever that came out a couple of days ago. I haven't looked at it, whatever, but no, let's just talk about the sexy stuff. Forget about what's going on over here. His father Abernathy said we look for heresy everywhere except for 6 inches away from us. But even like politically wise, how many of these are focused on DC and not thinking, hey, who's running for my gubernatorial? Who's running for my mayor thing? Who can stop this all? Which is another story we can get into at the local level. The hell, literally, with DC. But here's Tuck on this thing right here.
We learned conclusively that, in fact, the FBI and the federal intel agencies had been working secretly against Donald Trump's presidential campaign. So if you're wondering why no one has gone to prison for any of this, now that we know it actually happened, well, the reason is in part a law called FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And that law allows the federal government to spy without a warrant on foreigners outside the borders of the country. And the idea is bad people are doing bad things against us. We need to know what they are, and we can't bother to go to a court to get a warrant every time we want to know. But it will never be used against American citizens. Well, of course, now that we know it has been at scale. So that law is now up for reauthorization in the House of Representatives. And amazingly, the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, has spent the last couple of weeks doing all he can to get that law reauthorized. In other words, to allow the federal agencies to continue to spy upon and punish people who disagree with him. In other words, Mike Johnson's own party, Republicans, Trump voters. Mike Johnson has been working to do that. And that effort failed today for the moment. But of course, this is a temporary victory. It will come back, this attempt to spy on you, an American citizen, without a warrant because you've been politically disobedient. Why will it come back? Because it's what they really care.
I mean, right there, how many people knew about that right there? I mean, 9/11, every year it gets recycled through. The Rona thing was the only thing that got stopped. That was shocking enough. I'm surprised that emergency authorization got killed. What, did you see the story about YouTube?
No, I don't pay attention
feds,
much.
They literally had feds pick people up for watching videos. Not you putting up one. They're watching who's watching what and calling you in for watching a dude, they're spying on people watching not just, you get recommended, hey, well, you like this, click here. So people literally clicked on some video and had the feds come to the door because they not uploaded it, but guys, we are in some weird times.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty standard that we're seeing more of a constriction around expression, especially now we're in 2024. YouTube has made it known that they are not going to be allowing political speech, podcast, whatever you want to call them, to find any kind of traction, and especially since it's, I've already used especially twice, but also because YouTube is a place where a lot of supposed conservative or right-leaning people broadcast from. Of course, it would be a beautiful breeding ground to find supporters by giving over the view count, the view list to the feds. I mean, that doesn't shock me in any way, shape, or form. And if it does shock you, after all the other examples like Bank of America and onward and cell phone companies and just handing over records to the feds, sometimes the feds don't even ask, and they're just like, here, do you want this information? That it doesn't shock me. And the renewal of this stuff that's done on the anniversary of 9/11, the single worst piece of legislation in modern American history being the Patriot Act. So yeah, of course, that thing is going to continue to evolve like a cancer and spread and develop as new technology is created. When the Patriot Act was created, YouTube was not was what it is now. Social media wasn't what it is now. Patriot Act was put in 2002. The iPhone came out in 2008. So it had to adjust to that, and it will continue to adjust to it. So that as much as it's upsetting, and lastly, I know I'm kind of all over, I'm ping-ponging all over the place. Remember, there was the video in 2016 of the Google CEOs crying about, we can't ever let this happen again. We can't ever let Trump get elected again. So of course they're going to do every single thing possible, and they're going to work hand in hand with the feds. And you can call us as crazy as you want. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. Just understand that all of this stuff, there is a cost to all of these. So every platform you're on, even Rumble or Truth, there's a cost to being on there, and that is your personal data.
Yeah, if it's free, you're the product.
Yeah, that's right. I'll let John talk.
No, I mean, just what you were saying, except Steve, I think my wife cares about the translation too. So I'll take you, Fawaz, and Rick, and then my wife. That's 4 at least, maybe not 3. All right. She thinks it's cool. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't.
That's all that matters. That's your best critic, really.
That's right. That's right. No, I mean, yeah, everything you all said right there is about spot on. It's funny though, since Steve brought up that translation, I don't know, maybe just kind of add a little extra thing there. It's almost like the more we get into this craziness, how do I want to put this? The more it's all about these little inconsequential, insignificant, minor details rather than the truly important principles upon which like the whole world turns in all eternity. So I guess that's the other thing that that the modern age, especially with politics, but I mean even like in the church and in the natural world, it's like all of the most important issues are the ones that are being glossed over, including like one of the things that even during the Middle Ages, even when you were a serf and a slave and not really even enjoying as many benefits, maybe should I say to kind of coddle you as we do nowadays, you still had your privacy. And so it's probably worth thinking about what people of that era and age considered a privilege that they would not give up for anything else, and yet we don't. So I mean, it's I don't know. I guess there's a lot that just really makes me think that the biggest thing right now is how our priorities are so incredibly different, and I don't think most people give that much thought. How we think about almost all reality so much differently than our predecessors, so much differently than the folks even 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And one of those things is even just buying a house. Like talking to my mom about
Ask Steve about it too.
Well, yeah. And I mean, so the thing is, like, I guess it's hard to put things in the sort of perspective where we're all looking at things exactly the same way, because folks that grew up with a certain set of experiences, they view other things differently than those that don't have those same experiences. So my mom's talking about 14% rates when she and my dad were buying their first home, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, sure, twice the percentage of the rates now, but were other things that were necessary and were the way that you were accustomed to living, was that sort of strain on your budget when you're buying your first house, was it the same as it is for us now? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a math genius, and I can't just produce all the numbers right now on some nice easy spreadsheet. But it's things like that. Even making these kind of comments. Well, in the early 80s, even in the Reagan years, the rates were 14, 15%. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, are we going to compare likes with likes and just go through every single cost and all the cost of living, the way people even habitually saved, and look at it that way and compare like with like, apples to apples, oranges to oranges, or we're just going to throw out some numbers and think, well, that solves my problem. I refuted him on that by throwing out one set of numbers. So even
Powell
like our
came
way
out today saying it's going to get worse. He's thinking 8%, and what you were talking about with your parents going, but they didn't have the inflation part that we have. I mean, the inflation, the problem we got is way worse. And,
well, they weren't printing the money as much as we are today.
You see Zimbabwe, they're coming out with Zimbabwe gold. when you talk about when the $1 million or whatever it is toilet paper, they're going back to gold.
It was either that or Bitcoin. They don't have the infrastructure for Bitcoin. But so yeah, that's all there. Let's talk a little. Let's go off of Speaker Johnson. Let's talk about Trump and the presidential race 2024. We were not on the week after Easter, but I'm sure everybody saw about this, the Trans Day of Visibility. In case you didn't, here you go.
Now from Fox, and good morning to you. If you are just now tuning in, I'm Jean A. Francine, waking up with you here bright and early on this Easter Sunday, taking you out to watch.
Speaking of she's good. She doesn't even drop an in this.
Washington, D.C., giving you a live look out at the White House now at 8:41 on the East Coast. And we are following some breaking news as it relates to President Biden. According to our content partners over at the Associated Press, President Joe Biden is facing criticism this morning from Donald Trump's campaign and religious conservatives for proclaiming March 31st, which corresponds with Easter Sunday this year, as Transgender Day of Visibility. The Democratic president issuing the proclamation Friday, calling on all Americans to join us in lifting up the lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation and to work toward eliminating violence and discrimination based on gender identity. Again, that quote coming from the Biden White House as we work to give you all of these events here on Live Now from Fox. I actually want to show you a White House proclamation as it relates to this. There it is on your screen, showing you what I just read off. We do know, though, back in 2024, as it relates to this year, the March 31st designation overlaps with Easter today, one of Christianity's holiest celebrations. Trump's campaign accusing Biden, a Roman Catholic, of being insensitive to religion, and fellow Republicans piled on. They say, quote, "We call on Joe Biden's failing campaign and White House to issue an apology to the millions of Catholics and Christians across America who believe tomorrow is one for celebration only, the resurrection of Jesus Christ."
Millions.
That quote coming from the lady there on your screen. As we know, the Trump campaign's press secretary, that's who she is. She assailed what she called the Biden administration's years-long assault on the Christian faith. Now, she wasn't the only person to speak up. House Speaker Mike Johnson also saying on social media that, quote, "The Biden White House has betrayed the central tenet of Easter," and called the decision, quote, "outrageous and ridiculous." Now, actually, White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said the Republicans criticizing Biden are seeking to divide and weaken our country with cruel, hateful, and dishonest rhetoric, a tactic he says is being used amid this election season. But as we continue to follow breaking news and top stories on this Easter Sunday, sharing this with you as there is some controversy this Easter Sunday this morning. As we know, Biden has declared Transgender Day of Visibility set for March 31st, which this year falls on Easter Sunday. I'm Jean A. Francine. The time now 8:43 on the East Coast. Let's go ahead and go to our final 2-minute commercial break.
She goes from the Rick Barrett School of Journalism right there. She just nonstop for 3 minutes without a breath.
Yeah, well, when you don't have a lot of air, you just fill it with air and keep going. So as you can see, you should be shocked. You shouldn't be shocked, but it doesn't shock you, if that makes sense. Joe Biden, a fakest of fake Catholics, and I love how the non-Catholic theologians on Twix come out and say, well, Joe Biden went to church this Sunday and Donald Trump didn't, yet conservatives. Yes, that's because people actually practice the faith, understand that every time Joe Biden receives the body and blood of our Lord and Savior from an apostate or not from a heretical bishop or priest, that's one more. I couldn't even tell you the weight that goes on his soul that he's going to have to answer for at judgment. St. Thomas Aquinas, if you don't know what I'm talking about, folks, look up St. Thomas Aquinas. It's talking about people who are in a state of mortal sin taking the Eucharist. And he explains it much better than I did. But here's my hot take on this. Joe didn't do this. Joe just scribbled it, and it was his Jezebel wife, Jill Biden, who I believe is so hostile to the faith. They didn't get married in a church, by the way. They got married
actually, Obama did it too. There's a calendar.
Yeah. Yep.
Here's your state religious holy days.
Yep.
So it's been on the calendar for years. Obama had it on the 31st. I think it was I don't know if it was Easter Sunday on that, but Obama, there was a big thing about that. But
Yeah,
look at all this.
They're so oppressed, Steve. They're so oppressed.
I mean, every other day is literally there's one day, International Day of Pink, then there's a day of silence. 8 days later, Lesbian Visibility Day. Harvey Milk Day. 3 days later, pansexual and panromantic. What is that? You need a lesson on what all this means, but yeah, it's kind of like Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire type deal thing. It's just it's been in the works.
But I mean, we let this happen. We let this happen by having by not pushing back hard enough against our bishops for the last 20, 30, 40 years as they continue to go leftward, as they continue to preach, for tolerance and inclusion instead of actually standing up for the faith and the values. And too many of us have just gone to church, and that was the biggest part of our of us being Catholic, is going to church, and the larger majority was literally the C&Es, the church and the Easters, and this is a result of it, John. When you have the laity, which has decided to not get involved and leave it all up to the bishops and the priests, because that's their job. You get support of a guy like Biden, and then you get this eventual just walking all over it, because when the religion is not a religion, it's just a talking point, you can do whatever you want to it.
Yeah. I mean, in a certain sense, I think we almost should be thankful to God that something like this happened, because maybe it awakes. I mean, in a certain sense, obviously you never are openly promoting evil, but you knowing that someone who's as far gone as Biden was, I think he's kind of poking the bear by doing this anyway, or by doing that when he did it. So, in a certain sense, maybe it'll wake a few extra people up, and maybe that's the sort of tide change that we need. It's hard to imagine that any more is needed. I mean, really, after the legalization of the pill, or at least abortion, you think, okay, we can kill our babies now, but we're still going to call ourselves a Christian nation, or nominally Christian. So, really, it's just kind of like, in a certain sense, this is the logical end spot, maybe after Roe. I don't know. I mean, or in a certain sense, any sort of separation of church and state. But you could say more explicitly when you start to say you can kill children. If we can do that, then I mean, really, what could you reasonably say, even without the knowledge of the faith and some sort of strong philosophical grounding? What could you say? Was going to be the logical endpoint after Roe. I mean, that's sorry to use Roe, but that's just kind of I think an easy thing for everybody to grasp. And you hear the name, you think, okay, well, yeah, we can kill babies now, and yet Easter is still something important to us. And, I mean, how? So I don't know. Just to me, it's not. It's sad, but it's not surprising either. It's just the logical outcome.
Yeah, I look at the you as a mutual friend, John and I's Chris Ferrara, his book "Liberty, the God That Failed." He goes into it's towards the middle of the book, the state of the religion, the religious holy days that correlate with the real religion holy days, and it's like Veterans Day goes into All Souls Day, and Memorial Day is all Saints Day. I had that vice versa. That's All Saints Day, and the other's All Souls Day, and President's Day is Peter and Paul's Day, and he goes into all this, how that's parallels thing. But I mean, that's the state religion that we're living in right there. You kowtow, you bow, you pledge, swear allegiance to that flag from a socialist that penned it, and you better kneel when the anthem comes on, like everyone's losing their minds over the LSU Tigers not coming out for the national anthem. How dare they not come out for the war anthem before a game when 50 years ago no one would ever have played, but now we're so rah rah rah. Have to be USA USA USA. You have to be out there before the liturgy starts to have the opening hymn be sung, or not. You're a terrible human in that religion that we're going. So you can see all these parallels. on this. I mean, even do I think? I mean, did Brandon have a chance? He probably didn't have the stones or backbone or support to be able to do it if he even wanted to. So he had to be. That was going down. I mean, but I mean, they did ban, I think, religious designs banned from Easter egg art contest. I can't find. I had the link, but it's gone. There's one. Was it Nestle? They changed the name of Easter eggs to something else. I can't remember what it was. Some kind of
something stupid.
What. Yeah,
holiday eggs or something like that. They always do some holiday or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't even a holiday. It was just something like violent. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't even close to anything that would render the thought process into it. But I mean, in a sense, this triggered our side. Because the lefties probably didn't give two what's about what that went down. But everyone on our side, we got triggered on that. Hence, the marketing guy in chief wants a future King DJ Trump.
James version, and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this. God bless the USA Bible. And it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul. Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened.
So if you buy the Lee Greenwood Bible, which I would rather get the World on Fire Bible before I get the Lee Greenwood one, I think you get the golden shoes to go with it for 50% off.
The Trump shoes? Yeah.
The Trump shoes.
You get a pair of Trump shoes.
So you never miss an opportunity right there, right? I mean, trigger and then capitalize on, just like the beer guys. What was it? The Freedom beer, which is pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Conservative dad beer or whatever it was.
Yeah. It was basically like liquid water, yellow number 5 thrown in water. And you don't get to be able to sell beer like that fast unless something was already planned out or you had somebody in on it. I mean, our guys at Trinity, they still are working to try to be able to sell across state lines. That was for 2 years. That they did that overnight. Something fishy, anyways. But yeah, I mean, it was a trigger thing, which is what TV, drama, media, social media is. It gets you triggered to get a reaction. Then Trump comes out with the video on that, get everyone hit. Let's make some books to sell. Let's sell some Bibles. Lee Greenwood, you heard him. The pledge, the anthem, God bless the U.S., all that. It's just naturalistic. I'm kind of teeing it up for the next one. I'm saying that one. But
my favorite part of that was when he's like, I got a lot of Bibles. My favorite book, I got a lot of them in my house. It's like, yeah, use them as doorstops. What are you talking about, Trump? Like, you've probably never read one of those. No offense, but dude, don't. And that's the thing. Trump always boasts about how he does everything the best. Like, I have the best Bibles, or buddy. Remember 2 Timothy? That big thing in 2016 or whatever it was. It was like, my favorite 22nd Timothy, and they're like, what are you talking about? You just don't know what you're saying. And it's just. Yeah, and Trump never misses an opportunity to throw his name on whatever. You could, like, if I came up with, hey, Trump, I came up with this water bottle. You want to put your name on? He's like, sure, because he'll get a payout from it. He doesn't, he just needs to.
It's great marketing. He knows what the audience is going to do. I mean, the toppling of the demonic statue in Iowa, the guy that went. I mean, how many people are just if something goes right there. People will. It's you build it, they will come. People will come. Ray, same thing. Yep. I bet he's making a killing off that Bible right now.
And speaking of killing, we're gonna use that as our transition to the next story. This week's big story was Trump coming out, and for some reason, the economy is a big deal. The international wars are a big deal, and Trump comes out and decides to make his position on abortion known for this election cycle. There you go.
You think this in any way?
Let me get the right one up.
That would not be the correct.
Let's tee it. Here's Cruz talking about it.
Cruz, who is up for re-election this year. Senator, always a pleasure. Let me start with this move with, again, more student loan bailouts.
Wrong one. I found that.
It's been a while, folks. Hold on. We're still getting back.
The Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, and healthy American
He looks like
families.
he's AI in this picture.
We want to make it easier for mothers and families to have babies, not harder. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious baby. What could be more beautiful or better than that? Today, I'm pleased that the Alabama legislature has acted very quickly and passed legislation that preserves the availability of IVF in Alabama. They really did a great and fast job. The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life and the side of mothers, father, their beautiful babies, and that's what we are. IVF is an important part of that, and our great Republican Party will always be with you in your quest for the ultimate joy in life. Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith. Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. Do what's right for our country and vote. So important to vote. At the end of the day, it's all about will of the people. That's where we are right now, and that's what we want, the will of the people. I want to thank the 6 justices, Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, incredible people, for having the courage to...
Can't even remember who they are. Just whatever. Terrible. Height of hypocrisy. Height of weakness. You can't... do you have the Arizona one? About the Arizona...
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that first, then go with the
well, they're kind of both the same because he gets off the plane and they ask him about Arizona's ban, and then he puts his foot in his mouth immediately after while Steve's looking for that clip. Folks, all this shows is that Trump's nothing more than any other politician. He's moving to the middle. In 2016, he actually ran a radical platform, going completely pro-life. Many could probably argue because he didn't win.
Arizona go too far? Did Arizona go too far? Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly. What do you think about Florida? Florida's probably maybe going to change also. See, it's all of it's the will of the people. This is what I've been saying. It's a perfect system. So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. It's the will of the people. So Florida's probably going to change. Arizona's going to definitely change. Everybody wants that to happen. And you're getting the will of the people.
But those are 2 states doing the will of the people. And it's just, Trump is nothing more than he's a centrist politician. And the problem is the rest of the party, I know Kerry Lake is following that. And it gives every other squishy Republican an excuse to be, a centrist loser and not defend life at every stage. John, then Steve.
Yeah, I mean, It's just funny to hear the guy go on and on as if, I mean, who can really be an expert in so many things? Oh, it's almost certainly definitely going to change. Wait, almost certainly definitely. Can you parse that for me in a sentence? Like
possibly, definitely, most likely going to change.
I mean, yeah, you got to have stamina, I guess, to speak that much. But yeah, I mean, Steve mentioned the good. Sorry about that. Don't know what's going on there.
Robots, they're taking over. They're getting to John.
But it's basically what Steve said about the liberty, the God that failed, right? I mean, it's really that. It's when you elevate human liberty to that, it's got to be the will of the people. I don't know. Well, I tell you what, I do know. It shows you the difference between a truly Catholic culture and anything else. Is I know that I've got some devout Mexican and Colombian friends here who always say, "Si Dios quiere," if God wills, right? If God wills it. And they'll even say that when they'll speak in English. They'll say, if God will, and that that talks about kind of God's providence and looking out for everything. So that's kind of like one side of the coin. But the other side is like, what are you going to do naturally when you try to make choices in life? You're going to think about what would God, and so effectively for us Catholics, it's what would the church tell me to do in this situation? And it's that has never been the guiding philosophy here in America, and it shows. So I mean, look, in a certain sense, Trump is the most American politician that we've had. I don't know, maybe ever, and maybe that's why he's so he gets people's hatred going, but also their love, is because he is so American. And what I mean by that is he truly has taken that will of the people thing to its absurd extreme. I mean, clearly, like what the Democrats are going for right now, people don't actually want that. So they're going after the interest of the. I mean, they're effectively what the weak politicians in Europe were in the last century. So it's kind of nothing new there. What the Democrats are doing, what Trump is doing, in a certain sense, I think, from a historical standpoint, is actually kind of it's radical. Like it is really new and different. So I think that's why there's so much polarity with Trump. Is there's something kind of new and fresh there. So we don't like a lot of it, rightfully so, because it's not Catholic. But I mean, it is very different than just kind of the status quo as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get away with changing and flip-flopping that as many times as he does. I don't know. That's my little rummaging on it.
Dave,
it's been interesting. Everyone, their brother's been flip-flopping the last couple of weeks or days. I'm sorry, days, because he's right on state rights, the state getting back to the states, because where's murder taken care of? The state level. Every state has a law on murder. Federal government does not have a thing on murder. It's all done at the state level. And what is abortion? It is murder. Yeah. So state level. Now, there was Layla Rose. I got a lot. I could go on for days on this topic because it's people are flip flopping between nationalism and federalism. Can't have both. Nationalism will get us to rope 2.0. I have clips on that coming up. But here's Layla. That came out right after the Trump statement. Anyway, she gets into it. Here's the phrase that pays down here. GOP. I
did like it when X was only 140 characters.
Yeah, no, you can't lose. Here it is. Trump's position that the federal government was a vigorous role in protecting children from abortion. I know this sucks as coming from our position. There is no power for that. It's all at the state level. Because, like I keep saying, you will end this at the state level tomorrow if we got our act together. The next day, she's upset that she's blasting this because nothing's coming down from the federal amendment, federal everything. Everybody's answers is a federal something, which never works and nothing's ever done. The next day is breaking Arizona State Supreme Court ruled that current state law protects preborn and prohibits all elective abortions. Woohoo! Well, what is it? You can't say this is bad and this, or we want this, but we want this. Pick one. Obviously, the federal solutions do not work. Never has. No one. Give me, if someone has evidence on that, email me, please. I'd love to find it. Then pass the hookah pipe. Literally the next day, 2 states go just bulldoze ahead. Done. I mean, everyone loses.
The people
losing it for the Arizona thing. It's been on the books since 1860s. And it was like, what, all these GOPers. Well, how many Democrats have been involved in Arizona for the last 100 years? None of them did anything about it. All of a sudden, someone sees us. Oh, wait, we're criminalizing murder. Well, isn't that what that is? State, done. Now, if we did that at every state house, done. This thing is over. I don't think Pro-Life Inc. wants it over. I got too much. They'll have to find real jobs afterwards if they wanted to. Layla and all these guys are Abby. If you guys focused on the state, we've been heartburn this since 2 years now. This gay marriage over. This over. Trannies over. All this stuff. Over with an A. Over. Whatever you want to call it. But here's what we want. Here's Ted Cruz. We need
I've been saying a long time it's a question for the voters, and it's going to be decided primarily at the state level. That there is a place on the federal level for the outer extremes. So, for example, I and many others have voted in favor of banning partial birth abortion. Partial birth abortion, the overwhelming majority of Americans don't support. And at the extremes, Congress may act, but in the Senate.
Again, you can end that tomorrow, this evening. You can do it this evening at the state level. They say, oh, we got to do this here at the federal level. Let's do it. None of them going to do it. Here's Jeffries.
Another ruling on abortion in Arizona, further restricting the practice. Do you believe that these rulings in the wake of Roe v. Wade being overturned, does that expand your map when you're looking to take back the majority? And do you believe Donald Trump when he says that he would not sign a national abortion ban?
Donald Trump is lying. This is an individual who has said, along with the other extreme MAGA Republicans, that they are proud to have taken down Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump put 3 Supreme Court justices in place, several of whom, in my view, misrepresented their position before the United States Senate, claiming that Roe v. Wade was settled law. And then the first opportunity they had, took Roe v. Wade down and put the women of America in a position where abortion care has been criminalized in state after state after state. The extreme MAGA Republicans have been very clear. They do not believe in a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions.
And neither do
the
they.
only reason the former president is claiming to be for states' rights is because he knows he's not for women's rights when it comes to reproductive freedom. And he recognizes that he's in a politically vulnerable position.
Comment on the former president yet again declaring how proud he is of his responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. One has to ask, proudly responsible that 1 in 3 women are reproductive responsible, that doctors and nurses can now be jailed in some states for life for providing care, proudly responsible that states have passed bans with no exception even for rape or incest. And let's all be very clear, if he were to be put back in a position where he could sign off on a law, he would sign off on a national abortion ban. Joe Biden has been clear. If Congress passes a law reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, Joe Biden will sign it into law.
Matthew, do you think this in any way helped Trump with people who maybe, were not thinking of supporting him?
No. I mean, I actually think he's taken the worst possible political position, which is amazing when they think, as Garrett was reporting, they think in Mar-a-Lago he took a good political position. Here's what's going to happen. One, I agree with Victoria. It's still going to motivate Democrats in the course of this. So Democrats are still going to be motivated. Two, it's going to demotivate part of Donald Trump's base, as already evidenced by some of the things they've said, where they wanted a federal ban and they wanted to get rid of abortion, not only in places like Texas and Florida, but California and New York. So it's going to demotivate part of his base. And three, he still is going to have to answer the question every time a state does something that restricts abortion in this, because he's opened the door to say states can do whatever they want. That means he's going to have to answer, well, do you agree with what Florida did? Do you agree with what Texas did? Do you agree with Alabama? Do you agree with Mississippi?
And in the sense, the response from Trump would be, I don't care. That's what the state's supposed to do. Even that little thing that Trump did when he was like one side, well, that's gone too far. Wait a minute. You're either all in or you're not in at all. It's It's federalism or your nationalism. He cannot say it's states' rights. Well, Florida and Alabama, Florida and Arizona went a little too far. We'll get that fixed. No. You're not part of Arizona. You stay in D.C. If you're president of the United States, you're the executive of D.C. That doesn't mean you're a dictator of all 50 states. You're there for a union. That's interstate something. You're there for war. You're not there to regulate laws for anybody. You're there to sign off on a law if it's constitutional in D.C. for the entire union. That's it. And for someone, but that's our mindset. But what do you think about this? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about the bridge that fell over in Baltimore? But Brandon, what are you going to, that's not a DC problem. That's a Baltimore problem. That's a Maryland problem. But again, everyone wants to think all our money's going to Ukraine. All our money's going to Baltimore, fix a bridge. By the way, they had another bridge in there. Was it Oklahoma the other day?
Yep.
Once all these bridges getting hit, and that one fell like a top of
the
cart.
New hotness right now, Steve. That's all it is. It's the new hotness.
It is, yeah. So, I mean, federalism will fix this. It's the only secular version of that. Nationalism will get us road 2.0. What happened in the EU? See that? Where'd it go? Charles Cologne talked about it, and it came into play today. European Union will vote on the inclusion of access to abortion as a fundamental right in the EU. Wow, that's what did the EU just do? They are acting like the United States of America.
Yep.
Italy is a sovereign state. Germany is a sovereign state. Its state is synonymous with the word country. South Carolina is a sovereign state.
Yep.
Does that meaning change across the Atlantic? No, it's the same darn thing. Ecuador is a sovereign state. It's also a country. They call themselves America too, by the way. That's South America. So it's just we act like this union in DC is the blanket statement, Russia Junior. The EU is acting just like the United States in this nationalistic idea, one blanket statement law for the whole thing, and no one's going to do anything. But maybe they'll get a little more uppity. I don't know. They're a little bit different from us. But our mindset, we're just focused. We got to if you vote them out of DC, we'll fix this. Again, send me any evidence. It hasn't happened ever. I mean, literally the whiskey tax from Washington era is still on the books. But if you did it at the local level, if you did it at the state level, this is all done. And I don't think we want to win. I don't think I don't think they want to win that. It's kind of like Dr. Paul said that when someone asked him, why does all his pro-life bills get killed? No pun intended. And he said that the GOP has to run on it. If abortion was gone, they'd have nothing to run on. So now look at it. They're all wanting to get back at the federal level. So that even Cruz is like, we want it at state level, but we also want our hands on the federal. We want to have a ban here. All right, you get that in, that opens the door, you get Rope 2.0. Anytime that it should almost what McClanahan says, no, shut up. It's either state or nothing, because you're going to get the worst bill in the history of abortion bills come down the next few years if you keep this nationalistic mindset that DC has to fix it all. You stick with federalism, you'll get it done. If not, you're going to have more babies. You're going to have the extreme number of babies being killed when they put on a blanket carte blanche thing across the amber waves of fuel, as Mike Church likes to say.
Yep. Here's the thing. Is abortion the greatest issue of our time? It absolutely is. Should life be protected from the womb, from the moment of conception? Every Catholic here is agreeing with me. Yes, there is no denying that. There's no debating that. However, as I always like to say, we have to operate within the political systems that are presented to us. All you guys who are crying, moaning, and yelling about the national ban and how it needs to happen, honestly, I may be upsetting some of you. It's a cop-out. Simply because you don't believe you have the ability to argue in your state to get rid of it. And I know a lot of people don't like that. They're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Folks, federal governments come and go. And like Steve has said, if you set the government up in any way, shape, or form, and you give them any kind of legitimacy to do anything federally, it's going to get twisted, and the Democrats are going to use it to their own game, as they always did. Patriot Act was only supposed to be for terrorists. Now Steve and I are on 14 different watch lists. I mean, that's just how it goes.
You're getting picked up off YouTube.
Yeah, right. Just because of YouTube. And the fact of the matter is, even if you get your national ban, do you think, and this is something nobody wants to think of 5 steps ahead, Steve, you have your national ban on abortion. You think California's going to follow it? You have your national ban on abortion. You think New York's going to follow it? Just like
they're going to have notification out the wazoo.
You just like they follow immigration law right now, or they did under Trump, right? There's an immigration law. They say, hey, we're a sanctuary state. Sorry, sucker. The local police are barred from working with ICE. So you want to get your life, female Casey Robin, you need it. Yes, I agree. Who's going to enforce it in New York and California?
It won't do, Jack. They'll make it worse. It'll make it worse.
Unless you do it in New York and California, unless as Trump said, the will of the people, unless it happens organically from there. I'm banging my thing.
Well, New York
matter
had something.
What you do here.
New York had something go down. Kathy Hochul did I can't remember what it was. It was a couple weeks ago. And I remember seeing a bunch of people in New York tweet harder about how bad it was. All right, where's the men in New York? You tell me they ain't 50 good, virtuous men in New York out that can only tweet harder. They can only pound the keyboard. That can't run for the state house, New York, run for governor's gubernatorial race, clean up the state house. Tweeting doesn't fix anything. You can be big, bad at you know what on Twitter. You're nothing. Get out there and run. I mean, people go to Steve, why don't you run? I'm still ready. A couple weeks ago, I thought I was going to be in South Carolina. I don't know where the heck I'm going to be now. I mean, I can't run.
He's on the run.
I can't run for a place I don't even. What if I ran for North Carolina? Now I'm renting in South Carolina. That don't work that way. If you got a house or you got property, that used to be what you're supposed to vote on. If you had skin in the game, run. What do you got to? Hilaire Belloc, right? Pulled out the rosary. So that if you get upset at this, go kiss my you know what. But we don't have anybody that. Here's our man. Tweet, enter. He said something mean back to me. Let me go in, block. That's our men right now. Ain't none of them running for office. Some talk about it, don't do anything about it. But that's it. There's no one studying. There's no one doing it. We just bash each other online, and that's it. Oh, this is bad what they're doing up in D.C. I don't care. This is bad what's going on in North Carolina, New York. I don't care. Yeah. We deserve it sometimes. It's kind of like just throw your hands up. We deserve what's coming. And then you see her, we're going, like you said, oh, I want a federal ban. That's cop. You want daddy to do it for you. You don't want to you don't want to get your skin dirty. You don't want to get your boots dirty. You don't want to go take the time, effort, and anything to get out there, convert hearts. Get out there and get laws changed to the good side. You think these people we read about, these saints, what they do, sit back and did nothing? Like King Louis IX just sat back and just, you know what? I'm just going to show up one day. The Turks are going to, we'll take care of it. He actually got into the game. He went down and fought. We got nobody that really wants to do. We don't want it bad enough. Goes back to the will. St. Thomas Aquinas telling his sister, about she asked about being a saint. Will it? We don't will it. We'd rather just bash the hierarchy. Get points, get clicks, get likes, get more view count.
You can funnel money into one organization, supposedly nationally, instead of trying to do it throughout 50 different states.
It'd be over. Wherever you live, Kansas, North Carolina.
If you actually look at the data from Ohio, the only reason that one didn't work was Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well,
the Diocese of Cincinnati could not get themselves together to do it.
How about this? I saw a lot of people upset about this. This is Wisconsin. He's putting a ban, bill to ban, or was it veto to ban the bill to ban trans and gender or whatever conforming kids from participating in sports. You know how the solution for that? You get that guy out of the state house. You try that again. You get people in there. You already got the people in the state house putting the bill together. Now you got to get rid of the gubernatorial guy. Get got to get a good governor, good president of your state, president of your country, in a sense. That's all. That's it.
That's it. But it's hard
Flood
work,
the
man.
gates.
It's hard work when you actually have to pay attention to politics more than once every 2 or 4 years. You know,
And the Protestants will make us look bad on this, like the whole Alabama thing. There's the state they're trying. I mean, until they flop, that's a Protestant state. Mississippi, they ban abortion. Protestant state. The South, mostly Protestants are in the South. South Carolina, second least Catholic. Mississippi's number one. Almost the most pro-life states are pretty much Protestant places.
Yeah, they always pull the lever for it.
Top 10 list, are you?
No, I think Louisiana is the only Catholic state that might be in the top 10.
Yeah, and they've had issues.
But, yeah, I mean they're turning a corner with their new governor, but still, it was a while for them to get to this point.
Yeah, so if we can't get, it goes back to the federal. If we can't get, let's say, Rhode Island, people in Rhode Island going right now. There's it's about as big as this block of land out there. You can't convert that area and switch it to a pro-life state, but you think you're going to get the 320 million people. It's that McClanahan had a great video today on the Trump federalism thing. And he mentioned yesterday. All right, and I've mentioned this how many times? Can't believe it. 500 people representing you. 500 was it 545, whatever it is. If we're doing that whole one nation thing, you got 545 people representing, telling 320 million people how to live. Tell me how that makes any sense, how that's republic, how that democracy, whatever. That is lunacy. You're not going to be good. You're not going to come out good at the end of that. But if you break it down, 11 was it? Washington said 45,000 was too big. I think Madison was even smaller. That's how you run things. None of these places, the republics are old, have millions of people. You can't do it. It's out of scale. But no, we want DC to run it because it's sexy. You got MSNBC, you got Matt Walsh telling us how great that is. We got to get DC doing this.
Oh, well, that's because Matt Walsh has his new judge show or whatever that's all about.
It's everything. Every answer to these guys is always a federal solution, and it never works. Again, show me one that worked. By the way, and when was it Steve Deese? He talked about we got to get back to the Lincoln idea. Mr. Nationalism himself goes back to the conservatives are so stupid on what they're talking. They don't even know what they're talking about, probably. And they come up with these lunatic ideas. By the way, if anybody brings up slavery, Lincoln and those guys were pushing for an amendment to keep slavery permanent. Oh, well, the South was trying to, whatever something. Let's not look up and try to educate ourselves one bit at all. It's just whatever the meme is.
Just watch the Manhunt video or show on Apple TV Plus. That'll be your history.
That's it. That's it.
Just watch that.
And again, it's federalism for secular reason. You convert your state. It's also what Don Livingston at the Abbeville Institute. First, we got to break this thing up, and then we got to convert it. We got to do both. It's not just one. You got to convert this thing.
Yep, I agree with you. In that regard. I think I've said all I want to say on that. We got anything else?
You got the student debt thing going on. I thought this was cool from
billion people targeted. So this is essentially the president telling almost 90% of Americans who have no student loan debt, go jump in a lake or screw yourself. Yeah. But it also, again, it is uprooting the rule of law and ignoring what he knows will probably be overturned by the courts. Again, it is just uprooting the norms of this country, is it not?
Yeah, Dagan, you're exactly right. This was a shameless decision by Joe Biden and the Democrats, and sadly,
I won't play the whole thing, but it's fun to see the GOP upset about, hey, they don't want student loans forgiven by low people, but they were totally okay getting PPP and got that forgiven and all that. But I'm paying student loans. I have no problem with them forgiving all that because, hey, I can spend that to go find a house maybe one day. Or how many other people want to do that? You paid it off? Great. Everyone else paid it off? I've been paying it off for 20 years.
As long as, as long as our tax money is being used for all other kind of stuff, go ahead and you can go ahead and
why does that trigger you on it? Plus, on top of it, you got to pay was it about 20 or 25 years into it to be eligible for that. So you got to, it's not like these guys just, get out, you know what? I'm going to sign up for doctorate degree in basket weaving for 15 years and then not pay anything. And then you get it. It doesn't work that way anyways. Now they might try to pull that out. I wouldn't care one bit. We're at how big $1 trillion in debt? You're going to worry about student loans?
Yeah. We've printed so much fake money at this point that it doesn't even matter.
No.
It does not even matter what they do because it's all funny and fake anyway. So yeah, you can easily forgive mine. That'd be great. Not that it really, mine's like 20 grand or some stupid thing like that for my stupid masters. But yeah, it's more stupid things. That's all I got for that.
One more thing is, I don't know if people have seen this. You heard of Lavender?
No.
It's the AI that's being used by Israel to bomb people in Gaza. It's literally called Lavender. Mainstream media is now picked up on it. Was it code "Where's My Daddy" operation? It's something so nefariously evil, and you're not hearing on CBS, but other media like The Hill's picked up on it and things like that. Going gruesome stuff. But again, we're more triggered by student loans. Yeah. Terminator, Skynet is literally being used right now as an experiment.
Yep, they're using all that stuff, and nobody watched Terminator. I mean, at this point, I guess they just released it to kind of set us up for it anyway. So, and I don't think it was a warning as much as this was going to happen. So just kind of deal with it.
That's the first thing I thought of. That Skynet, they're literally targeting with AI. Yeah, we're gonna worry about here's what the TV's going to tell you what to be upset about.
Yep, indeed. All right. Do you have our saint? Both of us. I'm declaring both of our saint of the week is Caitlin Clark. That's it. Done. for what she did for women's athletics, she's done. Saint of the week is there.
I couldn't believe. I didn't think they were going to beat.
Oh, nobody did. Nobody did.
No,
they got a 6'7" center. All she does is she's bigger than everybody else in the court.
I was talking about the Final Four game because they locked her down. I would have just kept a new body on her the entire time, put a boxing one, and she'd been done.
Number 10 was doing a really good job on her for the first half anyway.
UConn was the UConn game.
Yeah, that girl number 10 was actually locking down. Well, then again, Caitlin was the only person that could really score on Iowa, so it's not like they could give the ball to anybody else.
Well, you see all the feminists are, look, women's basketball's got the most views right now. We played Sunday afternoon at 3. Nobody was working. Men's played at 9:30 p.m. on Monday night. Most of the East Coast had to get up the next day.
And that is not what we call going to be a consistent statistic going forward.
No, UConn. I haven't watched a lot of basketball this year, but I knew UConn was pretty much a juggernaut. Yep. And no one predicted Purdue to win. And the Caitlin effect on the other side. Next year's not going to be the women's game beating the men's.
No. Connecticut, led by former URI coach Dan Hurley. So in Rhode Island, we always say we wish we could get coaches like that. Except we did. And then we let him go.
Well, let's see the Babylon B had a great one. Caitlin wants to go in obscurity, gets drafted into WNBA.
Yeah, hey man, whatever you're going to do with that, that's, she could probably make more. I know Whitlock made a great case. She could probably make more money staying in college for an extra year.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they had that thing with the coach from Alabama just went stupid. Who's Nick Saban. And at Congress, there was 2 girls with him. I never heard of them. I think they played volleyball. They making $2 million. $2 million
from Alabama.
How from name, image, and likeness? Caitlin's pulling. She's taking a pay cut to go play the WNBA.
Yeah, I saw her on a friggin' State Farm commercial.
I did too. I saw that. Yeah,
I was like, I wouldn't leave.
Yeah, college game's over though. I mean, there's you got the transfer protocol. There was that he looks like Goofy he's in Indiana State. Doesn't look like a player at all. He gets all these guys leaving to go somewhere else because your coach left, which I get it. I mean, I understand if your coach leaves, you could probably leave, but man, that's the thing that's killing the sport. Is that's why Caitlin was people watching 4 years at the same university.
Yeah,
doing well, playing the right way. Whereas these guys, you don't know who's sticking around, who's not after a season. they're getting recruited in the middle of the season, and it's bad. It used to be much, but even though the players were, we had $5 to spend. That was our per diem, $5 that was D2 baseball, but it was JUCO. We had nothing, no money in that. So, but yeah, $5. Now these guys are making millions.
Oh yeah, the money is just ridiculous in that regard. But do you have a cry room?
I'll go with I'll go here in the Diocese of Charleston. We had Charlotte. We had our good bishop ended up retiring because he has kidney issues. I didn't know it was that bad, so I think he had like 12 more years before the forced retirement was going to kick in. So it really hit everyone as a shock. For a year, he hasn't been at the doing much functions because his health has been so bad. So he ended up retiring. We got a new Atlanta's been helping out a lot during the last year by the bishop coming up doing confirmations, doing ordinations, things like that. So they're very familiar with everything. So we actually got a new bishop named a couple days ago from Atlanta. He's from the same order as the bishops of Franciscan. And we had the cry why I'm bringing it up is the cry room is trads, because there's a priest friend text me up saying we had the bishop-elect told him there were people calling his parish up to ask him what his thoughts were on the TLM. Now, he had the press conference two mornings ago. He mentioned someone asked him about that. All kinds of questions. He's a Duke guy, by the way. That he said, I like how the diocese runs things here. I don't want anything to change. And I don't think the hierarchy here and the guys around would have signed off on something like this. Someone's going to destroy what we've built here. But we've had outsiders trying to, find videos of him back from years ago. Oh, look how wonky this was. If we're at the level that all we can do is dig up dirt on others and spotlight it and trash others before they even trash a bishop before you've even ordained a bishop. If that's our number one job in the trad movement, we deserve to get our butts kicked. We got to, enough of that garbage, figure it out, find some joy once in your life. And if it's not in your diocese, stop. Who cares? I got a little uppity about it because that's in my backyard. That's our spiritual father here. And we had outsiders called foreign and domestic. You protect yourself from foreign and domestic. We had foreigners blasting the new spiritual leader coming in. That's not Catholic way by any stretch of the imagination. And for that, thankfully I didn't see any podcasters doing it. I would have blown them up. But no, there was some other guys that I know personally that were doing it. So I'm putting those guys in the crime. Anyone that gets upset, obviously, people on Twitter when someone else would type in Bishop, is he gay? Really? That's already our first thought is he gay? Is he this? Yep. Get out of here. That cry room and lock yourself up, throw it away the key if that's necessary until you change your ways.
Yeah, I fully support all of that because if trads aren't miserable, they're not happy. It's really that simple.
It was either that or doing with the gay games in Denver.
Yeah. Strangely, they're somewhat related.
Norberg.
Yeah, my cry room is OJ Simpson. I prayed for his soul, but come on, man. If your Hearst isn't a Bronco, the stretch Bronco, then you're not doing it right. It's just whatever, man.
I should have grabbed the video about him taking all the jabs and telling everybody to take the jab.
Oh yeah, he took all of them, man.
Yeah.
And yet he's a no. You had Kate Middleton, the Duchess. She's got cancer now in her 40s. OJ out of nowhere got cancer. Toby Keith, talking about his stomach cancer coming out of nowhere. All these people, all these entertainers, all big fans of the Trump shot.
You do know. Remember what Adam Sandler said about OJ, right? Not a Jew.
Oh yeah, not a Jew.
It's just from that. Don't ever get his CD, but it's in one of his songs because but Hall of Famer Rod Converu, he converted.
Yeah, OJ Simpson, not a Jew, but
I listened to things back in the day we shouldn't listen to now.
Yeah, that was What's Your Name, the comedy album from What's Your Name. I had it, so I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, folks, that's it for this marathon episode of News from the Pew. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. We'll talk to you all next week. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey.